I'm here because I want to read a section of the book that I'm reading right now. It's called The Project, and it is by David A. Graham. Okay. And it says How Project 2025 is Reshaping America. That's what the book is about. And David A. Graham is a staff writer at the Atlantic paper. I believe they're out of Georgia, if I'm correct. He won a Toner Prize for excellence in political reporting for his coverage in 2020 presidential election. So I want to read a couple of things off of chapter one. I've kind of gone through the beginning of the book where it kind of gives you the introduction of, and it talks about the authors of Project 2025, which happens to be, I don't know if you guys know who Paul Dance is. Paul Dance is going to be running against Lindsey Graham. I'm sorry, I have a little bit of allergies today. He's going to be running against Lindsey Graham. His name is Paul Dance. He's the project director and was until mid 2024. He built the conservative LinkedIn talent database. Also, there's also other authors like Kevin Roberts, who's the project president, the Heritage Leadership, Forward, Bold Authoritarian Ideas. And then you have Gene Hamilton, the DOJ chapter author, immigration hardliner, legal reform architect, and James Schreck, who was the policy ghostwriter and Schedule F cheerleader, memo wizard targeting deep state workers, which is really interesting because when Donald Trump talked about the deep state, he talked about draining the swamp and the deep state being individuals who were long-term politicians. At least that's what it sounded like, right? Well, come to realize that what it really in actuality means is the people who actually work in government, which a lot of Trump supporters have said that they were the good ones. They weren't supposed to be let go. But that's exactly what he meant to do. You were part of the swamp. You individually were part of the swamp, and he was draining you out of the system. So, James Schreck, that's his name, he was the one who scheduled or who wrote Schedule F, aka the civil servant earthquake. And when he did this, hi Susie, how are you? So when he did this, he was targeting to be able to fire civil servants immediately. So here's what it talks about Schedule A. It says the role of the labor economist turned White House special assistant to the president for domestic policy in Trump's first term, widely described a chief architect of Schedule F. After the 2021, he became a director at America's First Policy Institute. So he has been part of the Heritage Foundation, and Schedule F was actually implemented at at the end of Trump's first presidential um, term, but President Biden overturned that executive order, which was a good thing at the time. But right now, we see lots of civil servants losing their jobs. And it's partly because of Schedule F, because as soon as Donald Trump took office, he incited that EO once again and kind of gave it its bones, right? So Schedule F is argued by critics as being hyperbolic, nothing, right? Barred from firing, partisan affiliations, and aimed at accountability, influencing staff. Basically, in this book that I just told you guys, The Project, which is written by David A. Graham, who is a reporter at the Atlantic newspaper, starts to talk about some of the things that they're doing. And as I'm reading this, I'm telling you guys, as I'm reading this, it's kind of, I mean, I already know what's happening and a lot of us already know what's occurring, but the more that you read into it, the more that kind of it's mentally exhausting. It's like going through gymnastics with your own brain. I'm sorry. I have allergies today for some reason. The Christian nationalism of Russell Vaughn and other. Hold on, I need to drink water because I'm gonna choke here. I don't know where that came from. um, wow, I didn't expect that. I'm sorry. It says, other contributors to Project 2025 manifest most clearly when they tackle topics of gender, race, education, civil rights. Project 2025 envisions an America where abortion is strictly illegal, sex is closely policed, public schools don't exist, the justice is harsh, all on accordance with the fundamentals of Christian principles that would form the explicit basis for policy. Although other ideas of Project 2025 are equally or even more radical, this is the heart of the agenda. The most realized and deeply felt proposals, the ones that would have the most immediate, far reaching effects on everyday lives of the greatest Americans. So, this is a book, Curly Hair. It's called The Project. It was written by David A. Graham, a staff writer for The Atlantic I'm sorry, I'm choking on my own water here. A reporter from The Atlantic who is in Georgia, I believe. And this book talks about, now that I'm catching my breath, right? It says Project 2025 mostly clearly when they tackle topics of gender, race, education, health, and civil rights. Project 2025 envisions America with abortion strictly illegal. Sex is closely policed. Public schools don't exist. Justice is harsh and all accordance with fundamentalists of Christian principles that could form explicit basics for policy. In this forward, The Mandate of Leadership by Kevin Roberts quotes Ronald Reagan in the 1967 speech, "Freedom is fragile. Things, and it's most more one generation away from extinction." Many Americans might agree, but oh my God. No, I was not trying to eat corn. I was drinking water and I'm just choking. Anyhow, I'm sorry, excuse me. The way Project 2025 defines freedom will feel alien even to more people who voted for Donald Trump. So that's what he's saying. Are you from Japan? No, girl. No, dude, no. You are nasty. Okay. The Constitution grants each of us the liberty to do what we want, but what we ought, Roberts writes. Where the Constitution promises freedom and ends Project 225, calls to reinforcing the set of obligations to traditional gender norms with muscular machismo and demure femininity, and nothing in between, to orthodox sexual norms and to inherit racial inequality. This is what they want. This is what they're looking for. Birthday shout out to Dixie, okay? I don't know what you're talking about. None of these are new areas of interest for the right. Evangelical Christians have dominated the Republican Party for over 4 decades. The Supreme Court 2022 Dobbs versus Jackson, which is women's health organization's decision, which overturned the right to abortion established by Roe versus Wade in 1973, was the cumulative of decades of work by social conservatives, but the authors of Project 2025 are willing to publicly push their agenda further. Other mainstream conservatives or Trump have usually done. So this is going to be even worse. I'm so sorry to hear that your friend passed. I'm sorry to hear that. My sincere condolences. The number one priority of Project 2025 is to restore the family as the centerpiece of American life and protect children, our children. Authors approach topics from education to technology to labor laws through this lens. As long as families meet the strict definition of Project 2025 established, a man and a woman and gender conforming children, preferably Christians, the authors want public policy to be given families flexibility in choosing how children are educated and how parents make livings or opt to stay home. Some of these ideas might attract broader support, yet, focusing on the family demands a willingness to sacrifice rights on both individuals and other non religious communities, although Roberts claims that the entire point of centralizing political power is to subvert the family. Project 2025 advocates using the centralized power of federal government to mandate the vision of the family that it spouses. Trump should not have said shithole countries. Oh, the correct term is okay. Um, so then he gets into the portion of abortion. It is too cynical to say that the right wing's new pro family turns is merely a rebranding of anti abortion policy because its proponents are committed to promoting their vision of family through other policies. But banning abortion remains the single biggest priority. The Dobbs decision is just the beginning, Roberts writes. Conservatives in states and in Washington, including in the next conservative administration, should push hard as possible to protect unborn every jurisdiction in America. For the most part, the venues for this push are Congress, where any federal ban would have to originate. The Supreme Court and other courts, which conservatives have worked for years to stock with pro life justices, and the Department of Health and Human Services. For, for good or ill, HHS activities personally impact the lives of more Americans than do those of any federal agency, wrote Roger Servino. Servino is an anti abortion zealot, a description that he likely not find projective. The first generation American, devoted Catholic, he started his law career at the Becket Fund for Religious Liberty, a conservative non-profit legitimist for legal exemptions for religious organizations. He spent years at the Department of Justice, including under President Barack Obama, and led the office of HHS, Office for Civil Rights, under Trump. His wife, Carrie Servino, is also a prominent pro-life lawyer who has worked to confirm conservative judges to federal courts. Trump 2028. Well, you're crazy. Well, you don't have to be here if it's boring, you know? This is just for educational purposes. So it's up to you. You can go. Bye. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, okay? Roger Servino preoccupations with abortion comes through on nearly every page of his chapter, and he sees the potential for pro-life policies in place that many people might not expect. His chief objection to federal COVID-19 vaccination mandates is the shots used fetal cell lines. These people are fucking crazy, man. Derived from elective abortions in the 1970s or 80s for the development and testing, although the Vatican issued a statement deeming the shots morally accepted. Servino does not. There is never any justification for ending a child's life as part of research, he writes. Although he calls HHS office as the refugee of resettlement to be moved to the Department of Homeland Security. For example, he has hasted to add, regardless of where ORR functions reside, ORR staff and care providers should never be allowed to facilitate abortions for unaccompanied minors in its custody. You don't have to be here. You can go. So, this book I suggest that everyone can read. You know, it's a great book to read on your own to kind of decipher the information that's in here so that you know what you want to do next. Because if you believe, if you're a Trump supporter and you're Trump 2028 and you believe that you're going to come out of this unscathed, he has said in the previous chapters that all of his policies will not only have a negative effect for people who do not want him in office, but it will also alienate Trump supporters. So, if you want to learn more about how it's going to alienate you, then you should go out and get this book and read it. Yeah, that's what you should do. Stop playing till they started doing chapters, but yeah, some Roblox. Oh my God. You know, go talk about Roblox on Roblox, okay? It's really important. Anyhow, just kind of an FYI, go out and get this book. Thanks.